$1 a year industry. $1 trillion is such a massive number. But that's what the trucking industry makes. To be exact, it's $997 billion a year is what the trucking industry makes. And in the last 24 months, over 100,000 trucking companies have shut their doors. Can't be in business, can't do business any longer. But there's freight brokers like C.H. Robinson that made $12 billion, or Total Quality Logistics that made $9 billion, while the people doing the most of the work, the 100,000 trucking companies that shut their door, legacy trucking companies that have been in business for 10, 20, 30, 50 years, shut their doors. Why is that? Well, you can't sue a freight broker because they don't have any laws. There is no laws. Our Congress has never passed a law for the freight brokers, and hey, they control 30% of the business. And there's going to be someone on here that says, well, don't use brokers. Well, it doesn't matter if you've never used a broker. They're controlling the freight rates. They have 30% of the market. The reason why you've been, even without a broker, the negotiating that you do, the rate that you're getting, you've been getting at the same rate for 20 years. Because it's controlled by freight brokers, even though you don't use them. It matters. People in this industry love to think, well, I do this, I do that. You got to look at it as a market. It's a $1 trillion a year industry, and what you do personally doesn't matter. Doesn't make a difference. You got to start looking outside of what you do. $1 trillion a year industry. 30% of the industry is controlled by freight brokers. Manufacturers and shippers are who's controlling the freight rate. That's why your rate will never change, even if you never used a broker. And they don't have a single law. Mortgage brokers have a law. Stockbrokers have laws. Congress has passed laws. The only thing a freight broker has is rules in an FMCSA book. And if you have a complaint, you send a complaint to a safety organization, to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, has to handle your financial problem. It's not in their wheelhouse. They do safety, not finances. So there's a bill out there, and I'm hoping to get its support so we can pass some laws for freight brokers. They've been running amok. They control the industry, and it needs to stop. 100,000 trucking companies have shut down in 24 months in a $1 trillion a year industry. And your rates, even though you've never used a broker, haven't changed in 20 years. The real problem with this is you won't call your congressman or you won't call your senator to force this bill, to force laws on the freight brokers. You won't do it because the numbers show that only 12% of the people, only 12%, vote for congressmen or senators. So you can't get nothing done. People don't even know how laws are made. You won't even take the time to call your congressman or senator and say, hey, there needs to be laws for freight brokers. It's a $1 trillion industry, and we can't even sue them if they do something unethical because there's no laws that have ever been passed for a freight broker. Anyway, this bill, I'm talking to a congressman on the 26th. Hopefully, he will introduce the bill. And if he introduces the bill, then I will tell you about the bill. I will tell you to call the people, your congressman and your senator, and to get this bill onto the floor. Put it in the law. Save an industry.